Hello my friends, just look at this. Ukraine continued to counterattack in Komar direction. Komar is the biggest settlement over here, that's why it is called Komar direction. Well, Ukraine has multiple of the attack vectors and the fight is ongoing for the Zyrka village. And if Ukraine is successful here liberating the village, it means that Ukraine will cross the river, which is very important, and Ukraine might potentially create some sort of the bridgehead in those couple of the villages, Yalta and Zaporizhia. Zaporizhia is not a big city in this context, it's the small village, and later on Ukraine might try to attack from the north to reach Komar and from Myrna too. The fight is ongoing also, according to my information, for Myrna at the same time I'm recording this video, so today. And yeah, just for you to show where is it happening on the Ukrainian map. So this is Crimea, Frontlines, some of the occupied territory, and this is Komar. So the fight is ongoing here for Zyrka, and maybe Ukrainian forces have already crossed the river. At least the drone operation was confirmed in the settlement. The presence of the Ukrainian infantry was reported before in Tolstoy village, and maybe Ukraine tries to cross this water obstacle, but I'm not sure for now. We'll see in the coming days. By the way, my friends, this interactive map and this one with the vectors is from the same analyst, Majakovsk, and the link for his Twitter is in the video description right below. What I may say, guys, that Komar direction is one of the most successful for Ukrainian counterattacks, but in general I expect that the next months there will be less counterattack actions from Ukrainian army, well, simply because of the reforms that Davydov, a new general commander of Ukraine, is introducing. For example, the priority to receive personnel and supplies for those favorite Syrsky regiments, and those are the attack regiments, Scalar Brigade 425th and the other one 225th, they're not receiving the same resources, they're not receiving the same amount of the reservists or mobilized personnel as before. So priority has changed for Ukraine with Davydov for defense, but still I expect that there will be some of the points on the front lines where Ukraine may still go on counteroffensive, and judging on the situation, Komar direction is one of those, but with Davydov in general, I do not expect that Ukraine will go on massive offensive operations all across the front lines. It is simply not possible because Ukraine is in lack of the resources and Davydov knows that, so it's better to go to defense, to not waste army men on the front lines in those infiltration attacks or midwave attacks as Scalar Brigade or 225th did. And yes, hooray, we saw those errors like it was in the Krinky Ukrainian counterattack back in 2023 already, or 2024 operations, some of them on territory of Russia, but it doesn't worse those losses. In general, with Syrsky, Ukraine doesn't have this kind of the logic of how, like, what is the end goal? Why do we attack to, for example, Kursk region? And for example, in Krinky, the landing operation was successful, Ukraine was capable to create the bridgehead, but what is next? What is the strategic goal of this operation? So Syrsky didn't have those thoughts, and also he was kind of loyal to the political management, and political management sometimes needs to show like real results right here, right now, but it doesn't work like that. So in defense, Ukraine has more strategical thinking, yeah, sometimes performing the counterattacks, but just to eliminate the threats in particular points. You know, it shouldn't be like the big counteroffensive of 2023, something like that. Ukraine cannot allow it to happen any longer because simply of the huge losses, and it's the drone war already. Russia has lots of the drones. Russia has aviation gliding bombs, which they used for the first time massively, not just in Donbass, but also in Krinky, flatlining Ukrainian bridgeheads that were created. So it was not analyzed properly by the previous command. I hope with Davydov it's going to be something different. But of course, yeah, me as you, we would like to see more of that stuff because this is the justice. Ukraine should liberate its territories. But in this war, if we speak about in general, the liberation of the Ukrainian territories is not possible without the collapse of the Russian regime. So the idea for Ukraine, and not just for Ukraine, should be to weaken the Russian regime with kinetic sanctions, with real sanctions from our partners. But sadly, our partners continue to cooperate with Russia. And, you know, I was shocked to find out that the entire Belgium gas, yes, liquid gas, was purchased only from one source, Russian Federation. So this is the pure hypocrisy. And, you know, they introduced those sanctions packages, but sanctions, they're working in long term. And why not to introduce those sanctions full scale right away in 2022? Why is there still a choice? Okay, we're gonna sanction this, but not sanction that. Sanction everyone, sanction all of the companies, all of the banks. But no, they continue to trade, and this is terrible. Because Ukrainian soldiers on the front lines, they pay the real price, not just for own country, but also for entire Europe. And also, unfortunately, people in cities, Ukrainian cities, they're suffering because of the Russian ballistic strikes. But no, those countries, they don't want to give more of the PAC-3 missiles. Yeah, this is, situation is not really nice, guys. But Ukraine continued to resist, and it is good. I'm sorry for speaking in this kind of the context, but yeah, you understand. Just for me to tell you the situation as I think it is, as I feel it is. So yes, in this Komar direction, Russia is gradually retreating the forces back to Komar. My friends, just a short reminder, which is very important for the channel support. Please press your like to this video just right now while you're watching it, and also subscribe to the channel. We are on the way to reach 1 million subscribers. Hopefully we're gonna make it all together very soon, and if you have this opportunity, you may support my job on Patreon. The link for it is in the video description right below, or join YouTube membership by pressing button join. You're amazing, you're fantastic, you're awesome, and let's continue with the video. But there are some of the places where Russia goes on attack, like for example in the northern part of the Kharkiv region. Russia crossed the border with Ukraine from Stary Hutor and went to Ustanivka, I think this is the name of the village. Also, they expanded the gray zone between Akhrimivka and Zibna in the same part, where Ukraine also strikes them with the help of the drones, while Russia is using aviation gliding bombs too. So this is the direction. By the way, we have the new information already that Ukraine has stopped this Russian attack with the drone strikes. So in Ivashina, Russian forces were halted. Those are the small attack operations of the Russian army with just limited forces. They're used to deflect the attention of the Ukrainian army in this region. That's it. And what's about Kupiansk? It still holds. There is no presence of the Russian army. Well, it's in a gray zone, you may see, but Russians confirmed that they left Kupiansk. Not Russian officials, though, Russian military channels. The Russian military say that they've liberated Kupiansk and it is under the Russian control. According to Putin's information and from the Russian General Staff Command, we have it still. Since the last year, they don't have the update that they've lost the settlement. And the Russian general who was in charge of this Kupiansk operation, he received his Medal of Hero of Russia. And he was not punished for losing the settlement. He is still on his position with his freaking medal. Yes, it works like that. But what, guys, I'm really concerned about is Slavyansk and Kramatorsk, because Russia has expanded the gray area after they've occupied Siversk. Did I expect this fast Russian move this year? Well, not really, because the terrain here is difficult, and also those are the open fields, so Ukraine potentially could have used maybe even more drones to hunt Russian infantry attacks, but Russians managed to get to Kaleniki, and if they occupy Alexandrivka, they might potentially create the bridgehead to advance to the Slavyansk and Kramatorsk direction full scale. So the fight for Alexandrivka is very important. But you see, it's already in the gray zone. Nevertheless, Russians, they have some of the losses. Yeah, this video I've seen before. I already told you that there was the Russian attack attempt that was stopped. Some of the videos from Ukrainian channels showing the job of our drone operators. This is Grad BM-21 Russian rocket artillery system. Well, Ukraine also has this kind of the stuff, but Russia has more. And that's why they lose more. For example, this one was vaporized. Just one of the wheels with the engine left. Okay. What else we have is the compilation of the mid strikes. Those are the Russian trucks, commercial ones, but they carry sometimes even military cargo. Ukraine doesn't have the opportunity to check every sort of the truck. That's why the job was delegated to Ukrainian drones, which are unpacking those trucks to check out what is inside. And in this some chain nuclear reaction, the trucks unpacking leads to the release of the energy. With a big kaboom, yes. And by the way, this is the Russian army KAMAZ. So we have this new compilation. The road is basically the same. It's R280 that connects Rostov-on-Don, the Russian city, and Crimea, the occupied region of Ukraine, temporarily occupied. See, the trucks are being visited all the way. Yay. Russia tries to provide some of the defense for those convoys, but usually it's kind of useless. It's great to see those Ukrainian drones flying there still, despite some of the losses in Ukrainian drone productions, because Russia was quite precise hitting one of the facilities in Kiev with Iskander, but Ukraine still has capabilities, and it's just a matter of time that Ukraine upscales the production and will use drones more massively. Yeah, the music is crazy here. Well, anyways, this is the operation of the Ukrainian drone unit. Once again, we see the mid-strikes. All Russians are trying to hide their vehicles. Yeah, supplies in the bushes. Some smaller vehicles are hit as well, and lots of the Russian Bukhanka vans. Even gas stations, yeah, like for example this one. This is gas, and where is fuel? Fuel is on the left. Well, this gas station is empty, you see? It doesn't mean that there is no fuel here, but no clients. So this is the legitimate target actually for Ukrainian drone operators. And of course, it's better to avoid hitting gas stations with the cars. That one is empty. It's parked there for a very long time, it looks like. Alright guys, I told you about the North Korean soldiers before, probably even in my previous video. So here we have the confirmation that those are ongoing the training on the territory of the Russian Federation in the Russian training camps. So Russians themselves are saying that those are North Koreans. Those are not Russian Burats or someone who might look like North Koreans. No, those are North Korean soldiers. Yeah, somehow this video went to internet and we have one more confirmation. Before, intelligence services were telling that there are several of the Russian camps where North Koreans are undergoing the special training of how to deal with the drones and other stuff. The training is done to minimize the losses if they potentially find themselves in Ukraine. And I think that it's one of the possible scenarios for the North Korea to be directly involved in the actual war on Ukrainian territory. Oh, Yaroslavl refinery. This is the volcano. It is burning. Not just the refinery, but also the oil storage. It went under attack. And not a long time ago, I think the last week, Yaroslavl already was visited by Ukrainian drones. So Ukraine is damn serious in flatlining the Russian oil infrastructure once again. Yeah, more images and photos. Looks quite nice. Yeah, several of the fire regions, it was a massive Ukrainian drone strike. Unfortunately today, guys, no wildberries so far. Yet. But the bigger refinery in Yaroslavl, I think it's even better. I think it was a tiny gap in striking those refineries a couple of weeks ago, but now Ukraine renewed the strikes with a bigger scale. As well as some of the other infrastructure. Looks great. And this is Crimea, Yalta. A generator. A generator. A generator. Yep, I would also look like this. Just imagine, yeah? The streets are all with generators. They don't have electricity, they don't have another choice rather than to run generators with the limited fuel they have. And because it's very difficult to deliver fuel to Crimea, it is very, very expensive. And about Yaroslavl, where the refinery has been just kaputted this morning, there are already queues towards the gas station. But overall, the situation with fuel on the Russian territory, at least not in Crimea, but in Russia, has been improved. First of all, because Belarus started to supply lots of the fuel to Russia. And by the way, the oil pipeline that goes to Belarus is the same Druzhba pipeline that goes to Hungary. Well, there are actually two pipelines. One goes from Russia directly to Belarus, the other one through Ukraine and to Belarus. But I think that now Russia and Belarus, they use both of the pipelines, especially when Ukraine agreed to open the transfer of the oil to Hungary. But the oil goes not just to Hungary and Slovakia, it goes to refinery of Belarus, and that's how Russia obtains the refined fuel later on. And the second reason why the situation with fuel in Russia went better is because Russia was capable to change the logistics. For example, Omsk refinery, it is still working almost full scale. It was hit once, it was significantly damaged, but Russia restored its operation and now it is providing lots of the refined fuel for the Russian customers. Also, Russia banned the fuel export. So before, those refineries, they were producing more fuel than needed for Russians just because Russia wanted to earn from refined fuel. But now, instead, they're forced to purchase the fuel, and they cancel the export just to ensure that the owned customers stay okay. And one of the main customers is the Russian army, of course, not just Russian people. For such a big country as Russia, fuel is the #1 priority. But Ukraine is striking Russia for nearly 1 year. Yeah, August the previous year, Ukraine launched huge strikes on Russia, and Ukraine is upscaling those. We see that more and more drones are flying to Russia, and they're still precise. Alright, the CEO of the Boeing company has said that they've signed the contracts with the European military producers to produce components for the future ballistic missiles and interceptors of the Russian ballistics, like for example Freya. But unfortunately, it takes lots of the time, even though there are promises that 5.7 and 5.9 could be launched this autumn for the test purposes on the Russian territory even. So if there are the tests, they're gonna be in real action conditions, just to try. Alright guys, as for now, it's all what I want to say in this video. Stand by for one more update today. And guys, please support my job if you can, of course, on Patreon. The link for it is in the video description right below. Or join membership of YouTube channel by pressing button join. Thank you guys, you're making this content possible, you're amazing, you are awesome. My friends, also don't forget to press like to this video and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to reach 1 million subscribers, hopefully kind of soon. Guys, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.